So I barely did any reading in the month of July, but we're still going to talk about the 2 books that I did read. So let's jump right into it. I don't know why I didn't read so much in July. I feel like honestly, I was just like outside. I was just doing things, being social. I did have a couple of work things going on. I took some work trips and I didn't really like have time to read, even though like I was away from my regular routine. I also like made some friends just like literally just by being outside. I said goodbye to a couple friends who were like moving away. So I was like out and about a lot. So I really think that like contributed to me not reading. And I also was not prioritizing my social media at all or prioritizing my YouTube channel at all. I was really just winging it. I think I've been wanting to like incorporate a rest month into making content. And I really think like July might be that month for me because I'm not really like, it's in the middle of summer. I'm not really like doing anything with my kids. I'm really like also in like summer mode, like vacation mode, and then wanting to be outside. So I think like July is the perfect month for that, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the 2 books that I did read in the month of July. And then we're going to talk about some books that I want to read upcoming and what reading looks like for me currently. So I read one book on my Kindle. First of all, I redecorated my Kindle more recently and she's so cute. She's so cute. She has like a lot of like a black romance on her, and I'm just like repping the melanin on here. But anyway, I read a book on my Kindle and it was called Dawning and Resurgence by Casey Mills. So this is the second book in an interconnected standalone series. And I read the last book was very first book was Shadows and Whispers, which was the first book in that series that I read, and my first book by Casey Mills that I read for the month of June. And it was actually my book club book of the month. So if you don't know, I have a book club and it's called Coley's Cozy Corner, where we read about Black women being loved on. And we read the book Shadows and Whispers for the month of June. I loved that book so much. I literally dove right into the second book, which was, like I said, Dawning and Resurgence. First of all, if you don't have a Kindle and you're thinking about getting a Kindle, continue to consider, and it is a good investment. It really is, especially coming from somebody who I am a person who I was reading on my phone for a really long time using the Kindle app. And then I finally like broke down and got a Kindle, and it really is a game changer because there are moments where I don't want to have like read on my phone because it's like so tiny. And then also the lighting on the phone is a little bit different. The lighting on the actual Kindle is super cool. Like it's like made for reading, and then you kind of get like that paper feel. So highly recommend you getting a Kindle if you are thinking about it. Yes, Dawning and Resurgence. Yes, by Casey Mills. I read that book on my Kindle. Like I said, it was about like 350 pages. It's a black romance, and there is a little bit of a disability rep in there. The guy, he's not like OCD, but he does have like a way about him, and it like leans toward like maybe a little bit of the spectrum. It was really interesting the way Casey Mills like wrote that character, and then the female she is just very an organized person, but also like is not going to fall for the typical billionaire type guy. These books are interesting because they kind of lean towards being like mafia, but not really. Like there's something going on with the family, and they're making like big money. Like there's some type of family business, but it's not really mafia. And as you read the books, you kind of find out like what it is. It's really good in that way because it kind of like touches on that, but it's not that. So if you don't necessarily want to read mafia, but you also want to read about like black affluential families, Casey Mills is for you. So I really am enjoying this series. I'm definitely going to read the last one because the first 2 were about brothers, but the last one is actually their brother-in-law. So that's pretty cool too, because I want to see like what dynamic they're adding in. And then in the second book, the brother-in-law had like a situation happen, and I kind of want to know more about that situation. So I am going to read the third book, which I don't remember. Oh, actually it's right here. It popped up on my books you should read, Emergence and Ascendance. Yes. Oh, and the collective, the name of the series is called the Collective. So by Casey Mills. So I'm in love with Casey Mills now. I think she's a great author. I love the way she writes. I love the way she writes the men. I love the way she writes the women. The books that I've read are so far dual POV, so that's also really fun because you get both sides. But I'm also not a person that I need dual POV. I'm cool with just like one point of view. So the second book that I read in July was actually Thrown a Glass by Sarah J. Maas. So I read this on audio, and I'm actually going to go back and I think I'm going to annotate this book. This is the first book in a 8-book series, but I did read them out of order. I read the third book. Where is she? There she is. I read the third book first, which was Assassin's Blade, and these are a collection of novellas. So there's 4 different stories, I think, in here. I think it's 4 different stories in here telling about the main character, who is Selena. Yep, Selena Sardathian, telling about her and like how she became who she was. But when Sarah J. Maas wrote this in chronologically, she wrote this one the third. So this is actually the first one, but I read this one second. So I read this one this past month and I loved it. I enjoyed it. I said this last month too, like it really said, okay, I really love Sarah J. Maas. Sarah J. Maas is that girl. Like the way she writes, so good. I am not a fan of only 2 books by her, and they're literally the Crescent City series. I don't know what it is. Somebody said it's like the modern fantasy that gets them, and I'm just like, I could see that, but I've also read other books that have modern fantasy in them that I love. So it's really not all that. It's just maybe just a little portion, like maybe a little something that I don't like. But anyway, this is like typical fantasy, like, knights and horses and, medieval times, like fantasy, right? If you don't know anything about this, which I actually didn't, I've heard Throne of Glass talked about so much, and I did not know the storyline. But the main character, Selena Sardathian, she is an assassin. And in the beginning of this book, she is in, I want to say jail, but she's like at a slave camp, and she is being taken out the slave camp by a king and a prince. Well, really it's by the prince. Yes, the prince comes to get her to offer her a deal. And the deal is that she will come and she will win. She needs to fight basically a group of other killers, assassins, champions to become the champion to the king. And the king is a real scary dude. Okay. He's a bad dude. Selena, don't be scared of nothing, but she's definitely scared of the king. And she decides to take the deal though, because what she can win from the deal is she can gain her freedom after being the king's champion for 4 years. So what I love about this book is just pretty much women power, right? Like she is the best assassin, even though she's a woman, even though she's young, even though she's petite and she's underestimated, she is that girl. Okay. She's the best assassin. And each time she kind of proves herself in that way. The thing that I don't like about this book is I think it's very clear that the author, Sarah J. Maas, was young when she wrote the book, because a lot of Selena's inner thoughts are young. They are young thoughts. Like she's constantly pumping herself up. She's constantly talking about how good she is. She's constantly talking about they don't know me, they don't this, they don't that. So I think that's a little young. However, the actual story and the plot, chef's kiss. So good. The things that happen in this book, the ups, the downs, the scary portions, like half the book, you're on the edge of your seat because you don't really know like what's going to happen while she's in basically these trials. I also feel like this could have been like the beginning of the trial. Well, really Hunger Games, I feel like, was the beginning of trials. But I don't know. I think Hunger Games was written like first before this book, but as far as like Sarah J. Maas kind of taking that and running with it, I like that. I'm also very interested to see like where we're gonna go. Like I said, this is the second book that I've read of the 8-book series. So I'm very interested to see like what's gonna happen next, like where we're going, what we're gonna learn, who's involved. There's so many characters as well. I think that is one of the main reasons why I want to annotate this book, because I want to be able to put like little notes and like little moments and like tab them here, because like I think some things have happened that is significant to the story, and I want to like be able to remember it later on. So that's kind of why I want to like annotate this book. But anyway, that was the second book that I read in the month of July. So talking about Throne of Glass and that series by Sarah J. Maas, the third book is one of the books that I want to read for the month of August. So I do want to read Crown of Midnight, which is the third book in the Throne of Glass, second book, really, but the third book I'm reading in the Throne of Glass series, Crown of Midnight. So I don't really know what this is about. I have been loving, honestly, going into books blind. Like I said, I've heard so much about Throne of Glass, and I love Sarah J. Maas. I am a Sarah J. Maas stan, at least her books. So I did not know anything about this story. I didn't know anything about like Selena, nothing, like no things I knew. All I knew was it was a girl, Selena. Like that's literally all I knew. Now I kind of know what the world is about and like where we're going with it and like the things that we're gonna see. Portions in the book that may, something's going to happen, right? There's gonna be something with Faye. There's gonna be some type of drama. She's gonna be fighting. She's gonna be killing. There's gonna be people involved. There's gonna be something sneaky. Like we're finding out the things. So I will be reading this. I think I'm going to do like a little reading vlog on this one, and really like talk through what's going on. I feel like I'm good with that, like because I'm gonna want to talk about the book as I was reading it. Like as I was reading Throne of Glass, there was like so many things where I was just like, okay, what's happening here? I feel like this is important. Maybe this is not important. Maybe this, maybe this. You know what I mean? Kind of just talking out my theories. So I really want to do that with this book. But this is one of the books that I want to read for the month of August. Also, for the month of August, I want to read The Good Ones Are Taken by Taj McCoy. This book I've had for so long, and I'm actually getting ready to go on a work trip. And I think books like this are like the perfect length, size, just to take on a work trip. They're paperbacks, they're floppy, you know what I mean? Like this is the perfect thing. So I actually have a pretty long flight to where I'm going, 5 hours. So I really think that I can get like a good chunk of this book read, at least on the plane, and then I can kind of go from there. This book, I know there's some type of love triangle happening. I know she's looking for love and she's on like a dating app, because these are like the little buttons from like the dating app is on the cover. And I've read the back of the book one time before. That's the gist of it. And I know one of the guys is her friend, and then another guy is someone she meets on the site. So I'm excited like to get into this and to see. I actually lent this book to a friend of mine. I had it like in my bag at work because I always have a book with me, and she was in a section of work that was like not busy at all, and she had some downtime, and she was like, man, I left my book at home. And I was like, oh girl, I got you. You want to borrow my book? This is what it's about. She was like, oh yeah, sure. Got the book, didn't want to give it back to me. She was like, let me borrow it, let me take it home so I can finish reading it. I was like, okay. And she brought it back like a couple days later, and she loved it, ate it up, gobbled up that thing. So this is one of the books that I want to read this month. I also have this book. I think I put this book on my book club selection. If you're interested in joining my book club, we read books about Black women being loved on, and I will link it down below. The book club currently is on Fable. If you're interested in that, in joining, so you can join there. So I think I put this for one of the books that we're going to pick for August, but we'll see what that book club book ends up being. The last book I have, yes, I only have 3 books because like I said, I haven't been reading that much. Life has been just good. Just watch my vlogs if you want to catch up on what's going on there. So I've just been like a little bit busy, not reading too much. But I do have books I want to read, like this one, Essence and Runes by Taylor Lynn. This book I picked up at Black Romance Book Fest. I got to meet Taylor Lynn. She was so animated, so much fun. I also sat in on a panel for her because she did a panel for Black fantasies. I really enjoyed listening to her on the panel, listening to her talk about fantasy and all that. So when I actually had went to her table before I went to her panel, so I met her at her table. She signed my book. Let me see. Personalized and everything. But yeah, so I'm interested to get into this. I don't remember what it's about. I know that she is like Faye, somebody's human, somebody's Faye. This is, I believe, like I said, is some sort of love triangle. The back says, do not be afraid to chase the stars. And I'm not going to read. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to read the inside cover. We're going to go in blind. On my Kindle, I am still reading Oathbound. Ciao. I'm still reading Oathbound. It really is taking me so long. 1, because I just haven't been reading as much. But then 2, I think I just want to savor Oathbound because I have to wait for the next book. So there's that. But maybe I should like tell you a little bit about this book. I don't know. Okay, how about this? Let's read this last part. There's just one problem. Rhea is already entangled with the queen, spurning her powerful lover, could extinguish any chance of peace talks while also risking Rhea's claim as heir to the wealthiest region in the land. Okay, so I'm thinking Rhea is the main character, so she gets involved with the queen. So this is some type of love triangle. And then I wonder how this prince comes into play. An unforeseen rescue comes from none other than the cunning prince himself. So the prince comes into play because he rescues somebody. She's involved with the queen somehow. So yeah, definitely a love triangle. Interested in to get into this one. I've never read anything by Taylor Lynn, but she has pretty good reviews, but like not a lot of reviews. I think she's a newer author. I think she is. I don't know. Like I said, I've never heard of her until I had went to Black Women's Book Fest and met her. So I want to get into this. So yeah, like I said, I just plan on reading I have 3 books on my TBR, but I could read more because like I said, we're picking our books still for our book club. And then I'm also reading a couple books on my Kindle. So I think I am going to probably continue those and they'll be added in. So for example, I'm reading Indigo by Beverly Jenkins. This was actually my book club book for last month, but I didn't read it. Like I said, I was out in the streets. I digress. Then there was another book that I just put on here called Loved by You by Alexandria Lachelle. I also have another book put on here called From Hopeless to Housewife. This is a book, like a little bit of biography written by a friend of mine, Tanika Asiadu. And then I have another book on here that I want to read, Go Deep, Unexpected Lover. Those books I added because I watched somebody else's reading wrap up and they talked highly of them. So I literally added them to my Kindle boo. I'm always reading on my Kindle. I just probably just don't read enough on my Kindle, but I need to read more on the Kindle. I will be doing some reading because 1, I've just been missing it. I've been missing the stories and like the escapism of it all. And then 2, I have goals. Okay. So my reading goal for the year is 80 books. I'm 50% through now, but we're past the 50% mark of the year. So I'm not too off, but I just want to keep going with my goals, not just for like, oh, I've hit my goals, but because like I said, I enjoy reading. I have so many books actually on my shelf that I need to get to and to read, and I have not done that. And I need to actually go through that. So we'll do that in another video coming up where we talk about the books on my shelf that I need to read. I also think I want to make a TBR jar. I see so many people like doing TBRs and I think it's so fun, but also I do terrible at like sticking to my TBR. So that's another reason why I just picked 3 books, because I'm just like, 3 is a good number for me to be able to keep the TBR and then still like read some other things, right? So we're going to have a good reading month this month. I hope you enjoyed this video. There will be more book videos coming your way. I have decided to commit. I really enjoy making my productivity videos, and don't worry, they won't stop. But I also really enjoy talking about books and sharing my love of books and what I'm reading and all that. So that is going to be definitely incorporated on my channel. So stay tuned for that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you enjoy my book content, please give me a thumbs up. Also comment down below one of the books that you're going to be reading for the month of August, and maybe I can just add some more books to my TBR. Thanks for watching this video, guys, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.